it's a good thing. Evidently, I need it and we need it. So, I do know this, it's easier to preach on prayer than to live a life of connection with God. This is the easy part. Why is it that we don't pray more? We talked about this last week. Those of you that had maybe more time to think about it, or those of you that are hitting it maybe for the first time here, why is it that you don't pray more? Why? Anyone?
For me, it's my faith getting too weak.
Your faith getting too weak. So
When my faith is strongest, I can't help it sometimes.
So when events happen, God seems smaller, and then you take things in your own hands. We all, when things happen, because your faith is weak. I think we can all relate to that. God doesn't seem magnified, but then let's flip this on its end. When are the times that we pray the most? When we see we don't have any other way. In our heads, think about it in your head. Put your heart over to the side right now. Are there really other ways than God's way? Really? Then why do we go those ways? Because it's not in our heart. That's the problem. We've got in our heart the beliefs of our heart is where we struggle with. Here's some people say they don't have time. We went through this last week. I don't have time, even though people internet users spend 60 hours on the internet per month. That's 2 hours and 6 minutes per day. And we don't have time, right? We got time.
Right.
We have time. It's just not a priority. We don't think that prayer makes a difference. I like the statement. Remember, prayer is not for getting our will done in heaven, but for getting God's will done on earth. Because we subtly make prayer about us. When we have self-oriented prayers, we will not be able to sustain a great prayer life. Because when the self is starting to look better, we don't pray as much. It's self-oriented prayers. Or how about this last one? We don't feel like it. Many of us are living in our soul, out of our feelings. Therein is the carnal Christian, right? This is what the points were from last week. Transformational prayer. If we want change, tremendous change in prayer, number one, it starts with a commitment to consistent prayer. Daniel was an official in Babylon, and it says he had times, morning, noon, and in the evening. He had specific prayers. The psalmist says, morning, noon, and the evening he prays. In Acts chapter 4 or 5, verse 1, talks about how Peter and John went to the temple at the time of prayer. They had specific prayers. prayer times in their day. We need specific prayer times in our day if it's going to get done. Unfortunately, I think one of the reasons we don't have transformational prayer, transformation means what? Change, real change, is because we fit prayer into the leftovers of our time frame. And it's not priority. Transformational prayer starts with a commitment to consistent prayer. Transformational prayer number 2 can take root when our hearts are totally engaged. Our hearts need to be engaged in prayer. The real inner person, who we really are, the place where we make decisions from, needs to be engaged with God. Or else we are just praying from the top of our head. As Benita has said before, the only thing that comes off of your top of your head is dandruff. If you want to just pray from the top of your head, we're just giving God a bunch of flakes. We're not giving Him anything deep. If prayer is going to take a root, it needs to come from the heart. We need to face God. And that means total honesty. That's where it starts. And 3, transformational prayer will be sustained. It will not be this fits and starts. It will be sustained when we understand that authentic prayer is about loving God. It's not about us. Transformational prayer moves beyond self-orientation, that it's about me, to God-oriented prayers. When we realize that this is how we love God, it's getting out of the way and getting in contact with Him. This is love. I think oftentimes we are praying out of fear, or out of worry, or we're in trouble. That's not sustained prayer. The greatest motivation in life is not fear, but love. And when we have a love for God, we will be able to have sustained transformational prayer. I absolutely believe that. If you want to find out who a person is, hang around them, see who they talk with, see what they do. But if you really want to find out who someone is, find out what they love. That's where their life is going. We need love for God. That's what we need. We need to get out of ourselves. We don't get a lot out of prayer. I don't get a lot out of it, so we don't do it. That's low-level prayer. And all of us here are pretty much on the low-level prayer place. Putting myself in there. So, concerning prayer and making it a primary priority, what will move you and I from duty to desire? We all know we're supposed to pray. But how do we move from I ought to pray and I should to pray to I desire to pray? I want to pray. I want to live my life with this. I heard prayer is like inhaling and exhaling. We receive from God. And we give back to God. We receive from God. That's our life. So let's get a little loose.